ready?
Yep.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I very much appreciate your taking the time to come to this press conference this morning. Thank you very much. As you know, the Huntsville school system is in crisis due to reduced funds primarily, and the need to lay off personnel, the need to redistrict, and the need to close some schools. It is definitely a very serious situation. And it's as if that were not serious enough, in the midst of it all, a bomb is hurled into our midst, thrown from Washington, in the form of a letter from the Justice Department demanding that along with these changes we've got to make in order to keep the school system above water financially, that we have got to do numerous other things to remove the disparities between black and white students, black and white schools, particularly in regard to registration in advanced courses and in discipline. Now, this was an 8-page letter sent to us by an attorney in the Justice Department by the name of Allison Brown. It was sent to the school board's attorney, J.R. Brooks. And one thing that it did was to respond to a letter that Mr. Brooks had written 4 years ago in regard to the desegregation order that is still laid upon our school system. So Ms. Brown was responding to Mr. Brooks' letter, and secondly, she was laying on these new demands. Now, I took it upon myself to respond to Ms. Brown's letter. As you perhaps know, it is widely circulated in the community. I, among many others, got a copy of it and have written a response to Mrs. Brown. What is my authority for doing this? Well, I have no authority other than the Constitution of our country, which gives me the right of freedom of speech and all the other rights that you know of. I am a taxpayer. I have children who have gone through the system, and I have grandchildren who are in the system. I live in the community, and as the schools go, so goes the community. And so certainly I have a strong interest in this, and it's on that basis that I have written Ms. Brown. Now, I would like to briefly go over what I've said in that letter to her. First of all, she talks about the middle schools, and she makes the comparison between 2 pairs of middle schools. She compares Challenger to Davis Hills and Hampton Cove to Ed White. And she laments the fact that there's a great disparity between these schools in regard to advanced placement courses in which the students are enrolled. Of course, Challenger is a primarily white school. Davis Hills is mostly black. And in regard to the other pair, Hampton Cove is primarily white, and Ed White primarily black. Now, she says that there is this disparity, and of course she doesn't like it. But look at the graphic that I put in her letter. In the first pair, Challenger versus Hampton Cove, Challenger versus Davis Hills, there's approximately a 50 percentile point difference in the SAT 10 test scores, and that is in the math part. In the reading part, there's an approximate 45 percentile point difference. And in the other pair, it's a similar situation, about 45 percentile points different. Now, advanced courses are for advanced students. When you are down in those percentiles, it's very unfortunate, but the brutal fact is you don't have many students who are advanced students. And so therefore, it should be no surprise that there are relatively few enrollees in the advanced placement courses. Now, going to the high schools, the next graphic in my letter makes the comparison between three high schools, Grissom and Huntsville, who she labeled correctly as primarily white students, white schools, and Butler, which is primarily black. And it talks about the very low enrollment levels in the black schools compared to the white. Well, her statistics are correct, but look at the test scores there. Now, this could quickly get confusing because here the measure is not percentiles on the SAT 10, but is the percent of students who tested in level 4, which is the highest academic level in the ART, the Alabama Reading and Math Test. Now, where would you expect advanced students to come from? Well, naturally, they're going to come from the top echelon of academic achievement, and that is just precisely level 4 as shown by the ART. So again, as you see the graphic, poor Butler, only 1.79% of their students were in level 4 for math, and for reading, they had 2.68% of their students in the upper level. Now, that is most unfortunate. Nobody takes any pleasure in seeing these kinds of numbers, but they are brutally honest, and how could you reasonably expect to draw many advanced students from a school that turns in those numbers? Mrs. Allison Brown, then went to the question of the elementary schools, and she compared 5 primarily white elementary with 2 primarily black schools. And again, the evidence goes along exactly the same argument. And again, as the graphic shows, again, very unfortunately, Rolling Hills and Lakewood are very low in their SAT 10 test scores. Now, she then jumps from the observation of the lack of parity in the enrollees to a lack of opportunity. That is not a logical conclusion at all. In fact, it is a monumental non sequitur. You cannot conclude from the lack of enrollment that there has been a lack of opportunity. Now, she then goes to the question of discipline. And again, she correctly states that there is a lack of parity between black and whites who are disciplined. Now, she doesn't give us any evidence of cases that have been mishandled. She doesn't suggest that the procedure for administering discipline has been unfairly written or poorly done. She looks only and solely at the numbers and again concludes that there is unfairness here. That, again, for the same reason, does not follow. If she could put forward cases 1, 2, 3, and so on, where blacks had been treated unfairly, that would be something else. But she doesn't support any evidence whatsoever of that kind. Now, whatever the roots of this disparity are, they don't grow out from anything the school board has done or has not done. If there is unfairness, it's because life itself is unfair. And to demand that the school board and the community correct the things with which they have had nothing to do and with which they can do little or nothing is grossly unfair. That's where the unfairness is. It's not to the students, but it's to the school system, the officials, and the community in what she is saying. Now, in closing my letter, I allude to one of her closing comments where she wrote this: "During my visit to the district in 2007, parents, students, and community members complained about the HVAC at Johnson High School and the lack of air conditioning there." And here is my response to it as I close this letter. It is ironic and amusing that this is the single concrete example you offer of something being amiss. You're probably much younger than I am. Most people are today, so your experiences may not track mine. But when I was in school, the very thought of an air-conditioned classroom, if anyone was capable of such a thought, would have been preposterous. Even in college, I only enjoyed such a luxury the last term before I graduated. To cite such a trivial fault looks to me like an admission of the paucity of substantial issues. And that would conclude my letter to Ms. Brown, and I will be glad to take any questions that you might have.